Hello everyone, I'm Satamitra from class of 2024. So with me today is our illustrious professor, Mr. VK Unni, and we're going to talk about law and new business, the course that we have been going through for the last 2 weeks, which is a part of the Winning at the Workplace curriculum itself. So during our course itself, personally, I thought that the course emphasized on legal and regulatory systems and how they interact and influence business decisions. So, Professor, my question to you, the first question. So, how do you think the course that you've been teaching us bridges the gap in between, say, what is traditional law learning as well as what is currently needed for the future business leaders?
Yeah, as you said, law and new business is a very important course, and as we call it, the winning at workplace. So this perfectly gels with the other core courses where you would have got a very strong foundation in various other disciplines. So for example, courses on mergers, courses on financial markets. So this particular course on law and new business, in a way, acclimatizes the student to the importance of having a very clear kind of regulatory insights with respect to various kinds of businesses which have already been set up.
Right.
Maybe you'll be working there, or if you want to take the entrepreneurial route, so what are the kinds of options available? So in a traditional kind of institution where we talk about a traditional business school or a university which teaches some traditional law programs, their focus is primarily on courses like constitution, things like the procedural laws, which mostly is being handled by lawyers on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Here, the the founding fathers of this institute, I would say, they had the vision to understand that that's not what a management student needs. A management student need not get into each and every section. He need
Right.
not get into each and every case law. But there are certain critical aspects of law which is a very, very important interface with business. So it could be laws dealing with contracts, it could be laws dealing with companies or body corporates, it could be the transactional part of it, which again, there are various other courses which are perfectly getting blended here, for example, mergers and acquisitions. And I also understand there is a course on constitution. So students already know about certain basic tenets of law and regulations, and this in a way feeds very well with respect to the fundamental knowledge, and I would say this adds on to that and helps them to bring it, or I would say it will help them to build upon the existing knowledge.
Right.
So that way it's very important.
Professor, during the entire course of these 2 weeks, I definitely have learned a lot from you in terms of how it has been, applied in the real world. So, if you can just elucidate any example that you would think that can enable us to get an idea about what kind of strategic decision making
Yeah.
is impacted through the law and businesses.
Yes, this question is also very important. So all of you know how the role played by law with respect to how businesses run,
Yes.
and also law also to a great extent has some kind of admiration or respect for business. So that's also there. That's why within the entire what's it, the large number of courses in law, business law always gets a special attention, right? So business law also feels that if we are going to interact with business, there is a lot of value being created there. So one important thing which you asked me, uh, I can go by one example.
Yes.
I think in our classes we discussed about the role of guarantees, the role played by guarantees with respect to various corporate transactions.
Right.
So one was specifically an example involving a company which wanted to raise funds through debentures, which was also guaranteed by a very large bank. So that particular transaction gives a perfect example of analyzing something through the legal prism and also through the financial or business prism. So why did they go for that guarantee? The legal side is very clear. There is a guarantor, there is a debtor, there is a creditor there. But nobody will go for a guarantee just to satisfy the legal part. Of course, law has to be complied with. Primarily, this transaction happened because of a financial reason, because the company wanted to bring down the cost of funds.
Absolutely.
And the cost of funds here came down because it was guaranteed by a very large bank. So you are actually seeing a transaction where business is actually at the epicenter,
Right.
and law comes in and aids the transaction. So I don't think I can give you a much better example than this. And this
Definitely.
really happened. Only thing I am not doing right now is I'm not
Taking
going
the
to name
names.
the companies. All of you know that.
Yes.
And that was a very interesting transaction which happened sometime in 2009. So this clearly shows that businesses, there is some kind of an epicenter there. Transaction happens there, and law comes in and adds on to that. And in a way, it adds value.
Right. So, Professor, currently, if you see that the digital landscape is changing a lot, right, and there is a lot of uncertainties and things like that are coming up. So, there's a huge, say, a role of say IP rights which have come in, and you have covered that extensively in the last lecture itself that you've been teaching us. So, could you discuss how the knowledge of IP can provide a strategic competitive advantage
Yeah.
for a business itself?
Absolutely. So if you see the evolution of businesses, especially the larger businesses, all of them are slowly, or they've already completed that transformation of moving from the brick to mortar to the I would say the older generation businesses to the newer generation digital ones.
Right.
So I'm not saying everything will be only digital, so it would be physical plus digital part. And whenever you talk about digital, immediately intellectual property
Yes.
plays a big role. So it could be the technologies covering that digital. It could be the copyright part, which in a way adds value to the entertainment part of that digital. It could be the logo or the trademarks or the brands which are associated with that particular company's distinctive sign. It could be the kind of designs. For example, the famous case between Apple and Samsung, which all of us know, even non-lawyers are aware.
Right.
This primarily deal with a digital. It was essentially a design patent, right? So whether you like it or whether we know it, the intellectual property or the protection, the concept with respect to protection of intellectual property has already taken the limelight. So it's essential, it's very critical for not only people who are working on it, for example, definitely people who work on it like creators or inventors, they'll be knowing. But today it's becoming a very important strategic decision. For example, whether to be a licensee to a particular standard essential patent or not can essentially make or break a company.
Right.
For example, I am going to be a technology implementer. This technology is protected by a patent, which is owned by some US or a European group of companies. So if I don't take a license and tomorrow if I am sued for infringement and if the court passes an order to restrain me, the entire amount invested with respect to this business is actually wasted, which means that's gone. So it's not only at the operational level. I would say IP has transcended almost all